I caught my husband with another woman, his secret trip was exposed. Chapter 1, The Lie of the Business Trip. The airport terminal blurred around me in streaks of polished marble and sterile white light. My nails dug half-moon indents into my palms, hard enough to draw faint pricks of blood, but I barely felt the pain. All I could see was the departing flight board, glowing bright and unforgiving above the crowded gates, confirming every word I had refused to believe for months. Ethan Carter, my husband of 6 years, the man who'd sworn to love me till his last breath, had lied to me again. And this time, the lie was unforgivable. 3 days ago, he'd kissed my forehead before dawn, his cologne warm and familiar against my skin, and told me he was flying to Seattle for a last-minute corporate conference. A mandatory business trip, he'd called it. Urgent, non-negotiable, critical for his promotion at the elite real estate firm he'd spent a decade building. He'd held me close and whispered promises of coming home early, of bringing me my favorite lavender truffles from the Seattle boutique we loved, of a quiet weekend, just us once he returned. I'd believed every word. Blindly, faithfully, stupidly. For 6 years, I'd been the perfect wife. I'd put his career first, paused my own thriving floral design business to support his endless late nights and out-of-town trips, hosted every corporate dinner, smiled through every lonely night, and loved him with every piece of my heart. I'd built our perfect little life brick by brick. Our sunlit suburban home, our weekly date nights, our quiet dreams of starting a family next year, convinced we were untouchable. Convinced our love was the kind that lasted. I was wrong. The truth crashed into my world at 2 a.m. last night, unannounced and brutal. I'd woken up to a muffled notification ping on his work laptop, left open on his home office desk while he was away. I'd only intended to close it, to tidy up his space for his return, but my eyes had locked onto a private email thread, hidden in an encrypted folder he'd always told me was strictly confidential company data. It was not company data. It was a travel itinerary. Not to Seattle. To Malibu. A 5-day luxury beach resort stay, booked under his legal name, paired with a second guest ticket and suite reservation for a woman named Chloe Bennett. Chloe Bennett. The 26-year-old junior marketing associate at his firm. The girl he'd casually mentioned once at a dinner party, describing her as just a new intern, eager and harmless. The girl whose Instagram comments on his posts had always felt a little too flirty, a little too personal, the ones I'd brushed off as professional courtesy to avoid being the jealous, insecure wife. Harmless. Right? My fingers had trembled as I scrolled further, digging through every hidden file, every buried message, every cached travel receipt he'd thought he'd erased. The Seattle conference. It didn't exist. I'd cross-checked with his company's official event calendar, called his assistant under a fake client alias, and confirmed it was a complete fabrication. A lie he'd crafted meticulously, just to sneak away for a secret romantic vacation with his mistress, while I stayed home waiting faithfully for his return. Worse still, every dollar of that lavish beach getaway, the oceanfront suite, the private yacht charter, the 5-star dinners, the designer jewelry receipts tucked in a PDF attachment, had been charged to our joint marital credit card. I had funded my own betrayal. I'd worked overtime for months to build up our joint savings, skipped personal splurges to cover his work expenses, budgeted carefully for our future home renovations, and every penny of it had been drained to spoil another woman. While I cooked his favorite meals, cleaned our home, and lay awake at night missing him, he'd been living a parallel life, laughing, kissing, loving someone else, on my dime. Tears burned my eyes, hot and acidic, but I refused to let them fall. I was done crying for a man who didn't deserve a single one of my tears. For the first time in 6 years, the soft, forgiving wife everyone knew was gone. In her place was someone cold, sharp, and unyielding. Someone ready to fight. I booked the next available flight to Malibu that morning. No packing, no hesitation, no second thoughts. I grabbed my wallet, my phone, and a portable charger, locked up our perfect empty house, and drove straight to the airport. I didn't text him, didn't call him, didn't give him a single heads up. Liars didn't get warnings. Cheaters didn't get mercy. Now, as I walked through the Malibu airport arrival gate, the warm coastal wind hitting my face and tangling my loose brown hair, my heart was no longer broken. It was hardened. Frozen over with a quiet, dangerous rage. I'd come here for one reason and one reason only, to expose his secret trip. To catch him red-handed. To end the lie he'd been living, and to burn down the perfect facade he'd spent years building. I hailed a taxi, gave the driver the name of the exclusive cliffside resort I'd found on his itinerary, and stared out the window as the city streets melted into sun-drenched coastal highways. Palm trees swayed in the breeze, the Pacific Ocean glinted turquoise under the bright California sun, and tourists laughed and chatted on beachside sidewalks. It looked like paradise. But paradise was just a gilded cage for my husband's cheating, deceitful secrets. 30 minutes later, the taxi pulled up to the gated entrance of the cliffside Grand Resort. White stone walls, blooming bougainvillea, and towering palm trees shielded the ultra-luxury property from public view. A uniformed valet opened my taxi door with a polite smile, completely unaware that the woman stepping out of his cab was about to destroy a man's perfect life. I walked through the grand glass lobby doors, my steps steady and deliberate. I'd spent hours studying the resort layout from online photos, memorizing the location of the private villa suites tucked away from the main hotel grounds, exactly where Ethan's reservation was placed. These villas were secluded, private, designed for couples seeking romantic seclusion. No staff patrols, no casual foot traffic, no witnesses. The perfect place for a cheating husband to hide his affair. The receptionist greeted me warmly. "Good afternoon, m. Can I assist you with a check-in or reservation inquiry?" I forced a calm, neutral smile, masking the storm raging inside me. "I'm here to meet my husband, Ethan Carter. He's staying in the private ocean villa, Suite 12. He asked me to meet him here." I'd memorized the suite number from his hidden itinerary, every detail burned into my brain. The receptionist typed quickly into her system, nodding immediately. "Yes, Mr. Carter's reservation is confirmed. I can have a bellhop escort you to the private villa walkway." "That won't be necessary," I said smoothly. "I know the way. Thank you." Before she could argue, I turned and walked toward the gated villa corridor, my shoes clicking softly against the polished tile floor. My hands were steady now, my mind crystal clear. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't sad. I was ready. Every step closer to the villa stripped away another layer of the naive, loving wife I'd been. By the time I reached the white wooden gate leading to Suite 12, I was no longer Poppy Carter, Ethan's devoted spouse. I was Poppy, the woman he'd betrayed. The woman who was about to get her revenge. The gate was unlocked. Of course it was. He'd been too busy living his secret fairy tale to worry about consequences. I pushed it open slowly, silently, and stepped into the private courtyard. The sound hit me first. Soft, breathless laughter. A woman's giggle, light and flirtatious, followed by my husband's low, rumbling chuckle, the exact laugh I'd thought was only mine. The laugh he used to reserve for our quiet nights, our private jokes, our intimate moments. My blood turned to ice. The courtyard opened up to a floor-to-ceiling glass patio door, slid halfway open to let in the ocean breeze. Through the gap, I saw them. Clear as day, no room for doubt, no room for denial. Ethan was sitting on the outdoor lounge sofa, his shirt unbuttoned halfway, his feet propped up on a glass coffee table covered in empty wine glasses and a charcuterie board. Chloe Bennet was curled up against his chest, her bare legs draped over his thighs, her head resting on his shoulder. He was whispering something in her ear, his fingers brushing gently through her long blonde hair, and she smiled up at him like he was the only man in the world. Like he hadn't left a wife at home waiting for him. Like he hadn't lied, cheated, and stolen our life savings to build this fake perfect moment with her. I stood frozen in the doorway for 3 long, agonizing seconds, drinking in every detail. The way he kissed her forehead softly. The way she traced her fingers along his jawline. The way they looked at each other with a warmth and tenderness I hadn't felt from him in months, even as I'd ignored the distance and clung to our marriage. This was no one-night mistake. This was a relationship. A secret, fully realized affair that had been going on long before this trip. Long before his fake business trips, his late nights at the office, his distant coldness at home. All the little signs I'd ignored, all the red flags I'd brushed off as stress and work fatigue, crashed over me in a devastating wave. The missed calls, the vague excuses, the sudden obsession with his phone privacy, the way he no longer initiated touch or conversation with me. It had never been work stress. It had always been her. Finally, Ethan's gaze lifted. His smile dropped instantly when his eyes locked onto mine. Silence exploded across the courtyard. The ocean breeze stilled. The distant crash of waves faded into a hollow roar in my ears. Chloe frowned, noticing his sudden change in expression. She turned her head slowly, following his stare toward the gate. When she saw me standing there, her face went white as snow. She scrambled off Ethan's lap in a panic, fumbling to fix her rumpled sundress, her eyes wide with shock and guilt. "Poppy," Ethan breathed out my name, his voice hoarse and terrified. He stood up quickly, his hands outstretched like he could somehow reach across the courtyard and fix this unfixable moment. "Baby, what are you doing here? This isn't what it looks like." I let out a sharp, bitter laugh, cold and hollow. It echoed across the quiet villa courtyard, cutting through the tense silence. "Really, Ethan?" I said, my voice steady and deadly calm, no tears, no trembles, no weakness. "It's not what it looks like. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you lied about a Seattle business trip to take your mistress on a 5-day luxury vacation. It looks like you've been cheating on me for months. It looks like you've been using our marriage, our savings, our trust, to live a double life." His face crumpled. Panic flared in his dark eyes. "Poppy, please, let me explain. Just listen to me once. It's a mistake. A stupid, terrible mistake. I love you. Only you. Save it." I took one slow step forward, my gaze sweeping over both of them, burning with contempt. "I don't need your excuses. I have all the proof I need." I lifted my phone, held it high, and pressed play on the video recording I'd started the second I stepped into the courtyard. Every second of their intimate moment, every touch, every whisper, every stolen smile, all of it was captured in crystal clear HD footage. Chloe whimpered, covering her face with her hands. "I'm so sorry," she mumbled, her voice shaking. "I didn't know, I thought you were separated. Ethan said you two weren't happy anymore." I turned my icy stare on her, unblinking. "You knew exactly what you were doing. You knew he was married. You just didn't care. You wanted the luxury trips, the expensive gifts, the married man's attention. Don't pretend to be innocent." She flinched, unable to meet my eyes. Ethan stepped toward me, desperation thick in his voice. "Poppy, don't do this. Delete the video. Let's talk privately. I'll end this right now. I'll never see her again. I'll make it up to you for the rest of my life. Just please don't ruin us. Ruin us. I repeated the words slowly, savagely. You already ruined us. The second you booked this trip. The second you touched her. The second you chose to lie to the wife who loved you unconditionally for 6 years. I lowered my phone, my mind already racing ahead. This wasn't the end of my pain. It was the start of his punishment. The start of my revenge. Your secret trip is exposed, Ethan, I said firmly. And everything you've built is about to crumble. Chapter 2, Begging for mercy he didn't deserve. Panic settled deep into Ethan's bones, visible in every twitch of his jaw, every shaky movement of his hands. He'd always been the calm, composed, unshakable one in our marriage. The confident, successful businessman who never lost control. But now, he was unraveling before my eyes, terrified of the consequences of his own choices. Chloe stood frozen a few feet away, her shoulders hunched, her perfect blonde hair messy from their earlier embrace, her eyes glistening with guilty tears. She kept darting glances at Ethan, waiting for him to save her, to fix the mess they'd made together. But Ethan wasn't looking at her anymore. His entire focus was on me, desperate and pleading, like I was his only lifeline. Poppy, please, he begged again, his voice breaking. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you more than words can say. But this was a one-time mistake. A moment of weakness. I've never loved anyone but you. You're my wife. My family. My whole world. I crossed my arms over my chest, tilting my head slightly as I stared at him, unimpressed and unmoved. A one-time mistake doesn't require a 5-day private villa reservation. A one-time mistake doesn't involve charging thousands of dollars in luxury gifts and yacht charters to our joint account. A one-time mistake doesn't involve months of secret texts, hidden meetings, and constant lies. I pulled up the folder of evidence on my phone, scrolling through the endless stream of proof I'd collected overnight, deleted text messages, late-night call logs, hidden travel receipts, jewelry purchase confirmations, restaurant reservations for 2 under fake names. Every single piece of evidence painted the same brutal truth: this affair had been long-term, deliberate, and calculated. You didn't slip up once, Ethan, I said coldly. You planned this. You lied to me every single day for months. You made me feel crazy for doubting you. You made me feel guilty for being insecure, while you were off living your double life. He stepped closer, reaching for my hand, but I pulled away sharply, refusing to let him touch me. The thought of his hands, hands that had held me, loved me, promised me forever, touching another woman made my stomach turn. I was stressed, he rushed to explain, his words tumbling over each other in a desperate plea. Work was overwhelming. I was under so much pressure to close the big downtown development deal. I wasn't thinking straight. Chloe was there, she listened to me, she made me feel seen in a way I hadn't in a while. It didn't mean anything. It was never going to mean anything. And what about me? I asked, my voice quiet but razor sharp. What about the nights I stayed up waiting for you to come home? The dinners I cooked alone? The birthdays and anniversaries we spent apart, because you said work was too busy. I listened to you. I supported you. I stood by you through every failure and every success. I sacrificed my dreams for yours. And this is how you repay me. He had no answer for that. His mouth opened and closed uselessly, his face draining of all color. Guilt flooded his features, thick and unmistakable, but guilt wasn't enough. Apologies weren't enough. After 6 years of devotion, I deserved more than empty words and desperate begging. Chloe finally found her voice, speaking up timidly from behind him. Mrs. Carter, I truly didn't mean to hurt you. Ethan told me your marriage was over. He said you two were just staying together for appearances. I had no idea you were still happily married. I turned to her, my gaze sharp enough to cut. Happily married? I repeated. I haven't been happily married in months, thanks to him. But that doesn't give you the right to sleep with a married man. You're an adult. You knew better. You chose to ignore the truth, because the benefits were too good to pass up. She flinched again, tears spilling down her cheeks. I'm sorry. I'll resign from the firm. I'll never contact him again. I'll disappear from both of your lives completely. Just please don't ruin his career. He's worked so hard for everything he has. I let out a humorless laugh. You're worried about his career. What about my life? What about the marriage he destroyed? What about the trust he shattered? Why should I spare either of you? Ethan's head snapped toward her, his expression hardening with anger. Chloe, be quiet. This is between me and my wife. The shift in his tone was telling. The second his mistress stopped being useful, the second she stopped comforting him, he was ready to discard her. It was proof of exactly who he was: selfish, cruel, and incapable of real love or loyalty. He loved no one but himself. Chloe's face crumpled at his harsh tone. She wrapped her arms around herself, stepping back, her earlier confidence completely gone. In that moment, she was just a young girl who'd gotten caught up in a married man's lies and manipulation. But sympathy was the last thing I felt for her. She was a willing participant in my destruction. Leave, I said to her flatly. Get your things and leave this villa. Now. She hesitated, glancing at Ethan for guidance, but he didn't look at her. He kept his eyes locked on mine, still begging for mercy. Without another word, Chloe turned and ran into the villa, rushing to gather her belongings. Minutes later, she emerged with a small suitcase, her head down, and fled through the courtyard gate without a single backward glance. Now it was just me and him. Alone in the villa he'd rented for his affair, surrounded by the evidence of his betrayal. The second the gate clicked shut behind Chloe, Ethan dropped to his knees in front of me. He'd never knelt for me in 6 years of marriage, not on my birthday, not on our anniversary, not during any of my hardest moments. But he knelt now, desperate and humiliated, begging for forgiveness. Poppy, I'm so sorry, he whispered, his voice broken, tears finally spilling down his cheeks. I've made the worst mistake of my life. I hate myself for hurting you. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. I don't want to lose you. I can't lose you. I stared down at him, at the man I'd loved more than anything, and felt absolutely nothing. No sadness, no anger, no longing. Just empty, cold indifference. The love I'd harbored for 6 years had died the second I saw him holding another woman. You already lost me, Ethan, I said quietly. The second you lied to me. The second you touched her. The second you chose your selfish desire over our marriage. No, he shook his head frantically, reaching up to grip my wrists, his fingers tight and desperate. No, we can fix this. We can go to couples therapy. We can take time off, travel, rebuild everything. I'll be better. I'll be the husband you deserve. Just give me one chance. Please, baby. One chance. I pried his fingers off my wrists one by one, slowly and deliberately, rejecting his touch completely. I don't want to fix this. I don't want to rebuild anything with you. This marriage is over. Panic exploded across his face. You can't mean that. We have 6 years together. We have a life, a home, plans for the future. You can't throw all of that away over one mistake. I can and I will, I replied firmly. I'm not throwing it away. You already ruined it. I'm just cleaning up the mess you made. I pulled out my phone again, opening my contacts list. I've already texted our divorce lawyer. I'm sending her all the evidence of your affair, your fraudulent business trip lies, and your unauthorized spending of marital funds. I'm filing for full financial settlement, spousal support, and full ownership of our shared property. You cheated. You lied. You stole from our marriage. And you're going to pay for every single bit of it. Ethan's eyes widened in pure terror. Poppy, don't do this. This will ruin my career. My reputation. My entire life. The firm will fire me if this gets out. My family will disown me. Please, have mercy. I leaned down, my face inches from his, my voice low and deadly. Mercy is what you should have given me when you lied to me every single night. Mercy is what you should have thought about when you spent our life savings on another woman. You had no mercy for me. So I have none for you. I stood up straight, brushing off my clothes like his presence was nothing more than dirt on my skin. Your secret trip is exposed, Ethan. Your perfect life is over. And I'm just getting started. With that, I turned on my heel and walked out of the villa, leaving him kneeling on the patio floor, broken and sobbing, surrounded by the empty wine glasses and discarded lies of his affair. I didn't look back. I didn't feel a single ounce of regret. For 6 years, I'd been the forgiving one. The gentle one. The loving wife who turned a blind eye to every flaw. Today, I was finally choosing myself. Today, I was becoming the woman who fights back. And my revenge was only just beginning. Chapter 3: Gathering the Ammunition. The drive back from the resort to my temporary Malibu hotel room was quiet. The coastal sun streamed through the car windows, warm and bright, but I didn't feel a single ray of light inside me. My heart was still cold, still hardened by the betrayal, but the initial shock had faded, replaced by a sharp, focused clarity. I wasn't just ending a marriage. I was dismantling every lie Ethan had built around his perfect life. I was going to expose every secret, every deception, every selfish act he'd hidden behind his charming, successful facade. When I arrived at the boutique oceanfront hotel room I'd booked last minute, I locked the door behind me, kicked off my shoes, and spread out every piece of evidence I'd collected across the glass dining table. Video footage, screenshot logs, travel receipts, bank statements, email threads, jewelry purchase confirmations, every damning detail laid bare. I'd spent months subconsciously noticing his odd behavior, but I'd never dared to dig deeper, too afraid of what I'd find. Now, there was no fear left. Only purpose. I pulled up our joint bank account online, scrolling through 3 years of transaction history, and my blood ran colder with every new discovery. The Malibu trip wasn't the first time he'd spent our money on Chloe. There were countless hidden transactions, expensive restaurant dinners in the city where they worked, luxury skincare sets, designer handbags, weekend hotel stays right in our hometown, all charged to our shared card under vague business expense labels. He'd been cheating on me for 2 full years. 2 years of coming home to me after sleeping with another woman. 2 years of kissing me goodnight while lying through his teeth. 2 years of letting me plan our future, save for our family, and love him faithfully while he built a secret life with his mistress right under my nose. Tears stung my eyes again, but this time they were not tears of heartbreak. They were tears of righteous anger. I'd wasted 2 years of my life loving a man who never deserved me. 2 years of blind devotion for nothing but betrayal and lies. I took a deep breath, wiped the tears away, and got to work. First, I called my divorce attorney, Clara Bennett, one of the sharpest, most ruthless family law attorneys in the state, a close friend I'd trusted for years. I sent her every single piece of evidence I'd compiled, organized and time-stamped perfectly, no gaps, no loopholes. Clara called me back within 10 minutes, her voice tight with shock and fury on my behalf. "Poppy, this is ironclad. Absolute ironclad proof of adultery, financial fraud of marital assets, and deliberate marital deception. He has zero ground to stand on here. You're entitled to full spousal support, full ownership of your marital home, full reimbursement for every dollar he spent on his affair, and a fault-based divorce that will destroy his legal standing entirely." "I don't just want legal victory," I told her firmly. "I want him to lose everything. His reputation, his career, his social standing, every single thing he cares about. He ruined my life. I'm ruining his." Clara paused for a beat, then replied firmly, "I'm with you. We'll file the fault-based divorce petition first thing tomorrow morning. We'll freeze all joint assets immediately, so he can't drain any more money or hide funds. And we'll build a full case for financial restitution for every unauthorized marital expense he made on his mistress." "Do it," I said. "No delays. No settlements. No mercy." After ending the call with my lawyer, I moved to the next phase of my plan, cutting off Ethan's access to everything he'd taken for granted. I logged into our joint banking app and froze all shared accounts instantly. I changed the passwords to every shared bill account, every utility subscription, every streaming service, every shared investment portfolio. I revoked his authorized user status on my personal credit cards, and removed his name from my personal savings accounts. Within 20 minutes, Ethan had no access to a single dollar of our shared money. No ability to spend, no ability to transfer funds, no ability to cover his lavish lifestyle, or continue spoiling Chloe. The financial safety net he'd relied on, my hard work, my careful budgeting, my sacrifices, was gone. My phone buzzed non-stop as I worked. Dozens of missed calls and frantic text messages from Ethan. I ignored every single one. He didn't get to speak to me. He didn't get to explain, or apologize, or beg anymore. His chance to fix things had died the second he stepped foot in that Malibu villa with another woman. Once the finances were secured, I turned my attention to social and professional damage control, and targeted destruction of his reputation. Ethan's entire career was built on his perfect public image: devoted husband, hard-working professional, trustworthy businessman, upstanding community member. His clients trusted him because of his stable family life. His employers promoted him because of his impeccable character. His social circle admired him for being the ideal husband. All of it was a lie. And I was going to expose every last bit of it. I compiled a condensed, tasteful, unexaggerated folder of proof, screenshots of the fake business trip confirmation, the real Malibu travel itinerary, the villa reservation, the unauthorized marital fund transactions, and a blurred clip of the villa footage that confirmed his infidelity without explicit content, enough to prove the truth without crossing into harassment or privacy violation laws. I drafted a formal, factual email to Ethan's CEO, his direct supervisor, and the entire executive board of his real estate firm. I kept the tone calm, professional, and unemotional, no drama, no personal bitterness, just cold hard facts. The email stated clearly that Ethan Carter had repeatedly falsified company business trips for personal romantic affairs, misrepresented his work schedule for months, and improperly used personal financial resources, tied to his marital status, to conduct unprofessional off-site behavior that reflected severely poorly on company values and integrity. I attached every verified piece of evidence to the email, time-stamped and dated for full transparency. I didn't accuse, I didn't rant, I didn't beg for justice. I simply presented the truth. Professional companies do not tolerate employee fraud, dishonesty, or deliberate misrepresentation for personal gain. Especially not for high-level executives up for promotion. Ethan's entire career advancement had been built on lies, and his company would not stand for it. I sent the email at exactly 4 p.m., end of the workday, right as the executive team was wrapping up their weekly meetings, guaranteeing immediate attention and discussion first thing the next morning. Next, I compiled a separate, gentle disclosure for our mutual friends and family. I didn't share graphic footage or cruel details. I simply informed our closest loved ones that Ethan had been engaged in a long-term affair, had lied repeatedly to me, and that we would be filing for divorce immediately. I shared basic proof of his secret Malibu trip to confirm I was not overreacting or exaggerating, and asked for privacy as I navigated the end of my marriage. I knew exactly how this would play out. Ethan had spent years painting me as the quiet, overly sensitive wife who didn't understand his work stress. He'd subtly hinted to friends that our marriage was strained, that I was distant and unappreciative, laying groundwork for his lies long before his affair began. Now everyone would know the truth. The strain in our marriage was never my fault. It was his cheating, his lies, his selfishness that destroyed us. By the time I finished working, the sun had set over the Pacific Ocean, painting the sky in deep purples and burnt oranges. The hotel room was quiet, peaceful, and for the first time in months, I felt calm. No anxiety, no loneliness, no quiet suspicion gnawing at my chest. The uncertainty was gone. The lies were exposed. The battle lines were drawn. My phone finally stopped buzzing with Ethan's desperate calls. I knew he'd realized I wasn't going to answer. I knew he was panicking, scrambling to fix the unfixable, terrified of the fallout he'd created for himself. I opened my laptop one last time that night and wrote myself a single note, saved to my desktop as a reminder: I did not break. I will not fall. I will rebuild better, stronger, and happier without him. Heartbreak had broken me temporarily. But revenge was fueling me permanently. Chapter 4: The First Wave of Fallout. The next morning arrived with soft golden sunlight spilling through my hotel room curtains, but the peace of the morning was shattered before I even finished my first cup of coffee. My phone exploded with notifications, emails, text messages, missed calls, social media alerts. The first wave of fallout from Ethan's exposed secret trip had hit hard and fast, exactly as I'd planned. The first email was from Ethan's CEO, Mr. Hale, the founder and head of Carter and Hale Real Estate, the prestigious firm where Ethan had built his entire career. The email was short, formal, and final. Ms. Poppy Carter, thank you for bringing this critical information to our attention. We have launched an immediate internal investigation into Ethan Carter's professional conduct, fraudulent business reporting, and violation of company ethical policies. Effective immediately, Ethan Carter is placed on indefinite, unpaid administrative leave, pending full disciplinary review. All pending promotions, project assignments, and company benefits are revoked until further notice. We take integrity and professional honesty extremely seriously at our firm. Misrepresentation of work travel, fraudulent company reporting, and unethical personal conduct that compromises company reputation will not be tolerated. Sincerely, Arthur Hale, CEO, Carter and Hale Real Estate. A small, satisfied breath left my chest. This was only the beginning, but it was a devastating blow for Ethan. Indefinite unpaid leave meant he had no income, no job security, no professional standing. The promotion he'd been bragging about for months, the senior partner position that would have doubled his salary and cemented his status in the industry, was gone entirely. Seconds after reading the email, my phone rang. Ethan's name flashed across the screen, and this time, I answered. I didn't speak first. I let him hear the quiet, steady breathing on my end, letting him sweat in the silence. Poppy, he roared, his voice furious and broken, the desperate begging from the day before replaced with raw, unbridled anger. What did you do? You ruined my career. I'm on administrative leave. They're investigating me. I could lose everything I've worked for. I chuckled softly, cold and unyielding. You ruined your career the second you lied about a business trip to cheat on your wife. I just exposed the truth. Don't blame me for your own choices. This is revenge, he shouted. You're doing this out of spite. You're being cruel and vindictive over one mistake. It's not spite, I corrected him calmly. It's accountability. You lied to your company, falsified work records, and used your professional position to cover up your affair. Your firm has every right to discipline you. This is the consequence of your own dishonesty. What about our life? He demanded, voice cracking. What about our home, our future, everything we built? You're throwing it all away. There is no our life anymore, I said firmly. You threw that away 2 years ago, when you started sleeping with Chloe. I'm just cleaning up the wreckage. I could hear him pacing frantically on the other end of the line, his breathing ragged and panicked. I'll lose all my clients. My reputation is destroyed. Everyone in the industry will know about this. I'll never work in real estate again. That sounds like a personal problem, I replied flatly. You should have thought about the consequences before you cheated. He switched tactics instantly, anger melting back into desperate pleading. Poppy, please. I'll beg the board for forgiveness. I'll quit seeing Chloe forever. I'll do anything. Just pull back the email. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them we're working things out. No, my answer was immediate, unwavering. I'm not lying for you. I'm not protecting your reputation anymore. You don't get to hide behind my loyalty after you betrayed me. You're heartless, he whispered bitterly. I used to be too kind, I shot back. I used to be too loyal, too forgiving, too willing to overlook your flaws. That kindness got me cheated on, lied to, and robbed of my marriage. I'm done being heartless to myself to be kind to you. Before he could argue further, I heard a faint female voice in the background of his call, Chloe's voice, shaky and upset. Ethan, what's happening? My boss just pulled me into a meeting. They know about us. They are asking questions. A cold sense of satisfaction washed over me. I hadn't even targeted Chloe professionally yet, but the fallout was already spreading. The firm's internal investigation included all parties involved in Ethan's unethical conduct. Chloe was a junior employee who'd engaged in an inappropriate, unprofessional relationship with a senior executive, violating company HR policies on workplace fraternization and conflict of interest. She was going to lose her job too. Ethan's tone turned frantic again, distracted by her panic. It's fine, Chloe, just stay calm. I'll fix this. I'll talk to HR. You can't fix this, I said clearly, loud enough for both of them to hear. You can't fix any of the damage you've done. You're both going to face the consequences of your choices. I hung up the phone before he could reply, blocking his number immediately. No more calls, no more texts, no more excuses. He was no longer permitted access to my life, my emotions, or my mercy. Minutes later, my lawyer Clara texted me an update. Divorce petition filed officially this morning. Fault-based adultery and financial fraud on record. All joint assets fully frozen. He cannot sell, transfer, or spend any marital property without court approval. Another win. Another layer of protection for me. Another loss for Ethan. Next came the social fallout. Our mutual friends and family members began reaching out one by one, sending supportive messages, expressing shock and anger on my behalf. Everyone was appalled by Ethan's secret trip, his blatant lies, his years of deception. Several of our closest friends texted me privately, admitting they'd noticed Ethan's strange behavior months ago, but hadn't wanted to overstep or make me paranoid. They'd seen him distant, secretive, frequently absent, but they'd trusted our marriage enough to stay quiet. Now they all felt betrayed on my behalf. Ethan's own sister texted me a heartfelt apology, telling me she'd always thought he was taking me for granted and was devastated by his actions. She promised to stand with me through the divorce and cut off contact with her brother until he made amends I would never accept. The social pedestal Ethan had stood on for years was crumbling fast. The perfect husband facade was shattered completely. Everyone now knew the truth. He was a liar, a cheater, and a selfish manipulator. By midday, Chloe's social media accounts had gone completely private. She'd deleted all her photos, removed all connections to Ethan, and erased every trace of her public presence. She was terrified of the backlash, terrified of losing her reputation, terrified of facing the consequences of her choices. But hiding wouldn't save her. The truth was already out. The damage was already done. I spent the rest of the day finalizing my next moves. I booked a flight back home the following morning, prepared to return to our house, pack my things, and start rebuilding my life from scratch. I contacted my old floral design clients, letting them know I was returning to business full-time, ready to reignite the career I'd put on hold for Ethan's dreams. For the first time in years, I was prioritizing myself. My goals. My happiness. My future. That night, Ethan sent me one final long text message, the last message I would ever read from him. Poppy, I know I've destroyed everything. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I love you more than anything. I made a terrible mistake, and I'll spend the rest of my life regretting it. Please don't let this be the end of us. I'll lose my job, my family, my reputation, everything. Don't leave me with nothing. I stared at the words for a long moment, feeling absolutely no sympathy. He was worried about losing everything. But he'd never once worried about losing me when he was cheating, lying, and breaking my heart. I deleted the message without replying, then permanently blocked his number, his email, and his social media accounts. He was officially erased from my life. Now all that was left was to watch his world burn completely. Chapter 5. Home to the Empty Lies. Flying back to our hometown the next morning was surreal. The plane lifted off the Malibu coastline, leaving behind the site of Ethan's secret affair, but the weight of his betrayal traveled with me, settled deep in my chest. Yet for the first time since discovering his lies, I didn't feel burdened by the pain. I felt liberated. I was going home, not to Ethan, not to our broken marriage, but to my house, my space, my life. I was going to take back everything I'd sacrificed for him. When I pulled up to our suburban neighborhood in the rental car, the sight of our white two-story home, with the blooming front flower beds, made my throat tight. This was the house I'd decorated with love, the home we'd built together, the space filled with 6 years of memories, birthdays, holidays, quiet nights, happy moments that now felt like fake illusions. Every corner of this house held a lie. Every happy memory was tainted by the secret affair Ethan had been hiding all along. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The house was quiet, empty, spotlessly clean, just how I'd left it before I flew to Malibu. The faint scent of Ethan's cologne still lingered in the air, a reminder of the man who'd pretended to love me while destroying me from the inside out. I walked through each room slowly, taking in every detail. The living room with the family photos on the mantel, photos of us smiling on our wedding day, on our anniversary trips, at family gatherings. All fake smiles. All fake happiness. The kitchen where I'd cooked him hundreds of meals. The bedroom where we'd slept side by side for years. The home office where he'd hidden his secret email threads and travel plans. Every space was haunted by his deception. I set my suitcase down in the hallway and pulled out my phone, checking in with Clara for another case update. Clara's latest text update was brutal, exactly what I'd hoped for. Ethan's firm has completed initial investigation. Formal termination letter issued this morning. He is fired effective immediately for fraud, ethical violations, and falsification of company records. Chloe Bennett has also been terminated for workplace policy violations and fraternization with senior leadership. Both have black marks on their industry records, making future real estate employment nearly impossible. A sharp, satisfied smile tugged at my lips. The first major blow was fully landed. Ethan's career, his most prized possession, was gone. Destroyed completely by his own secret trip and his endless lies. He'd spent a decade building his reputation in the competitive real estate industry, climbing the ranks, networking, building client relationships, sacrificing time and energy to become a successful senior executive. In 1 week, I'd burned it all to the ground. Chloe's budding career was also over before it had even begun. A young graduate with a promising future in marketing and real estate, now permanently blacklisted from the industry due to her choice to pursue a married man. Karma was swift. And it was beautiful. As I stood in the quiet living room, my phone buzzed with a new text from an unknown number. I opened it, realizing instantly it was Chloe, texting from a new number after blocking me on her old one. Her message was desperate and bitter. "You ruined my life. I lost my job, my career, my reputation, all because of you. Ethan lied to me too, but you're the one who destroyed everything. Why couldn't you just leave us alone?" I stared at the message for a moment, then typed a calm, unapologetic reply. "No one ruined your life, but yourself. You knew he was married. You chose to sleep with him, to accept his gifts, to join him on secret trips. You reaped exactly what you sowed. Take responsibility for your own choices." I blocked her new number immediately after sending the reply, cutting off all contact with her permanently. I had no sympathy for her victim mentality. She was not an innocent victim. She was a willing participant in my marital destruction. Shortly after, my doorbell rang. I froze for half a second, knowing exactly who it was. Ethan. He'd rushed home after being fired, desperate to confront me, desperate to beg for another chance, desperate to fix the unfixable. I walked calmly to the front door, unlocked it, and pulled it open. Ethan stood on my front porch, disheveled and broken. His hair was messy, his eyes bloodshot and exhausted, his dress shirt wrinkled and unbuttoned at the collar. He looked like a shell of the confident, successful man he'd been just days earlier. The pride and arrogance were gone, replaced by pure defeat and desperation. "Poppy," he whispered, his voice hoarse and broken. "Please let me in. We need to talk." I leaned against the door frame, crossing my arms, my expression cold and unyielding. "There's nothing left to talk about, Ethan. The divorce is filed. You're fired from your job. Your secret trip is public knowledge among our family, friends, and colleagues. Everything is over." He stepped forward, reaching for me, but I stepped back, keeping a firm distance between us. "I lost my job today," he said, his voice cracking. "My entire career is gone. My clients are dropping me left and right. My parents are furious with me. Everyone I know is disappointed and disgusted by what I did. I have nothing left." "Good," I said flatly. "You deserve every single bit of this pain. You spent 2 years living a double life, hurting me every single day, and now you're finally feeling the consequences." "I know I messed up," he shouted, tears spilling down his cheeks. I know I hurt you. But I've lost everything already. Isn't this enough punishment? Can't you just forgive me and let us move forward? No, I shook my head firmly. Losing your job isn't punishment enough for 2 years of lies and betrayal. Losing your reputation isn't enough for breaking my heart and destroying our marriage. You get to walk away with your life. I had to walk away with a broken heart and 6 wasted years. He stared at me helplessly, his face crumpling into full sobs. I love you, Poppy. I've always loved you. Chloe meant nothing to me. She was just a distraction. A stupid mistake. A 2-year distraction. I scoffed. A 5-day luxury secret trip distraction. Thousands of dollars in gifts and hotel stays distraction. That's not a mistake, Ethan. That's a choice. A deliberate, repeated choice you made over and over again. I gestured around the house, my voice steady and powerful. I built this home. I built this life for us. I loved you faithfully, supported you endlessly, and put you above everything else. And you repaid me by sneaking off on secret trips with another woman, spending our savings on her, and lying to my face every single day. I'll pay you back every dollar, he begged. I'll work any job, pay back every cent I spent on her. I'll do anything to make this right. It's not about the money, I told him firmly. It's about the trust you destroyed. The love you killed. The years you stole from me. You can never pay that back. I pointed firmly toward the driveway. This is my home now, Ethan. The court has frozen all assets pending divorce settlement, and I am the primary resident. You need to leave. Now. He refused to move, standing frozen on the porch, sobbing uncontrollably. Where do I go? I have nowhere to go. No job, no money, no family support. I'm alone. That's your problem, I said without an ounce of sympathy. You made your bed. Now lie in it. I stepped back inside the house, grabbed his suitcase from the guest closet, the suitcase he'd packed for his fake Seattle business trip, and tossed it onto the porch at his feet. These are your things, I said. Take them and leave. Don't come back here again. Don't call me, don't text me, don't contact our family or friends asking for mercy. You lost all rights to my life, my home, and my kindness. He stared at the suitcase, then back at me, pure agony in his eyes. You're really never going to forgive me. I will never forgive you, I confirmed clearly. Forgiveness is for people who are sorry for their actions. You're only sorry you got caught. With that, I slammed the front door shut in his face, clicking the deadbolt locked firmly into place. I heard him pound weakly on the door a few times, heard his muffled begging through the wood, but I didn't move. I didn't open the door. I didn't feel a single flicker of guilt. For 6 years, I'd been the one begging for his attention, his time, his love. Now he was the one begging for mercy he didn't deserve. I walked away from the door, leaving him stranded on my porch, broken and alone. I walked back into the quiet, empty house, and for the first time in my entire marriage, I felt free. Chapter 6: The full collapse of his perfect life. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind of legal progress, social fallout, and personal healing. While I steadily rebuilt my life, piece by piece, Ethan's world continued to collapse completely, every pillar of his perfect fake life crumbling one after another. First came the financial ruin. With no job, no income, and all joint marital assets frozen by the court, Ethan had no way to support his lavish lifestyle. He'd always lived beyond his means, relying on our combined income and careful budgeting to fund his expensive car, his luxury wardrobe, his country club membership, and his frequent travel. Without his 6-figure salary, and without my financial stability, he was broke within days. His luxury car payment bounced. His country club membership was revoked for non-payment. His credit cards were maxed out and declined. He was forced to sell his expensive designer watches and luxury accessories, just to afford basic rent for a cheap motel room on the edge of town, a far cry from our beautiful suburban home, and his Malibu villa getaway. The man who'd once lived in luxury, who'd bragged about his successful career and perfect life, was now struggling to afford daily meals. Next came the social annihilation. Our entire social circle knew the full truth of his secret trip and his long-term affair. The story spread quickly through our neighborhood, our family networks, and the local professional community. Everyone knew Ethan Carter was a liar, a cheater, and a fraud. He was uninvited from every upcoming social event, every family gathering, every friend's dinner party. His own parents refused to speak to him, devastated by his dishonesty and the shame he'd brought on their family name. His siblings cut off all contact, embarrassed and disappointed by his treatment of me. He'd spent years cultivating a reputation as the trustworthy, loyal, perfect husband and son. Now he was a social pariah, abandoned by everyone who'd once admired him. Chloe's life collapsed equally hard. Blacklisted from the real estate and marketing industry locally, she was unable to find any job in her field. Her university alumni network distanced themselves from her, her friends abandoned her, and her family was disgusted by her choice to date a married man and destroy a marriage. The secret romantic getaway she'd been so proud of, the luxury trip she'd thought was a prize for winning a successful man's attention, had destroyed her entire future. She'd traded her promising career and good reputation for a few days of fake romance with a lying, selfish cheater, and lost everything in the process. Worst of all for them, their toxic, secret relationship crumbled instantly under the weight of consequences. Now that Ethan had no career, no money, no social status, and no luxury gifts to offer Chloe, she lost all interest in him. The attraction had never been for Ethan himself, it had been for his success, his money, his lifestyle, the status of dating a powerful senior executive. The second he lost everything, Chloe abandoned him completely. She blocked his number, refused to meet with him, and told him bluntly that she had no interest in a broke, unemployed, disgraced ex-executive. Ethan was left with absolutely nothing. No wife, no mistress, no job, no money, no family, no friends, no reputation. He was entirely alone, isolated by his own selfish choices. I watched it all unfold from a distance, calm and unaffected. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate excessively. I didn't feel cruel satisfaction. I simply felt validated. Every consequence he faced was earned. Every loss was the direct result of his own lies and betrayal. While his world burned, mine slowly began to bloom again. I threw myself back into my floral design business with full force. I reconnected with old clients, booked new high-end wedding and corporate event contracts, and rebuilt my creative brand from the ground up. Within 2 weeks, my business was busier and more successful than it had ever been before I'd put it on hold for Ethan's career. I reconnected with friends I'd distanced myself from during my marriage's quiet decline, rebuilding my social circle with people who loved and supported me unconditionally. I focused on self-care, on healing, on rediscovering the independent, happy, ambitious woman I'd been before I'd become someone's wife first and myself second. I redecorated our home, removing every trace of Ethan's presence. I packed up all his belongings, boxed away every shared memory, repainted the walls, replaced the decor, and turned our shared marital home into my safe space, my sanctuary, my fresh start. The house no longer felt haunted by lies. It felt bright, peaceful, and entirely mine. Midway through the second week, Clara updated me on the divorce proceedings. The judge had reviewed all evidence, Ethan's fake business trip records, his secret Malibu vacation proof, his 2 years of marital fund fraud, his long-term adultery, and ruled firmly in my favor. The official court ruling was final and unnegotiable. 1. Fault-based divorce granted entirely on Ethan's behalf, with full legal documentation of his adultery and financial fraud. 2. Full reimbursement of all marital funds Ethan spent on his affair, totaling over $48,000, to be paid in full within 6 months. 3. Permanent spousal support awarded to me for 5 years, compensating for the career sacrifices I made during our marriage. 4. Full sole ownership of our marital home, all shared furniture, vehicles, and personal assets. 5. Ethan is entitled to 0 shared assets, only permitted to keep his personal clothing and miscellaneous personal items. The ruling was absolute. Ethan had nothing left. No home, no assets, no financial security, no legal ground to contest any part of the divorce. Clara texted me after the ruling, he has no legal recourse. He destroyed every right he had to marital benefits through his deliberate fraud and infidelity. You have won completely. I stared at the text, a soft, genuine smile spreading across my face. After 6 years of sacrifice and heartache, I'd finally gotten justice. Not petty revenge, but fair, legal, complete accountability for every wrong committed against me. That evening, Ethan sent me one final desperate email, his last attempt to manipulate me into pity. Poppy, I'm begging you to appeal the ruling. I can't pay back $48,000. I can't afford spousal support. I'm homeless, unemployed, and broke. I have nothing left. Have mercy on me. Please don't let me be destitute for the rest of my life. I read the email once, then deleted it without a second thought. I didn't reply. I didn't feel sorry for him. I had been destitute emotionally for 2 full years. I had been homeless in my own marriage, lonely and abandoned and betrayed while he lived a double life of luxury and love with another woman. He had no right to ask for mercy now. I replied to his email with a single, final sentence through my lawyer, no emotion, no bitterness, just absolute finality. You chose your actions. You will bear their consequences. This matter is closed permanently. With that, every last thread connecting me to Ethan Carter was severed. Chapter 7, The Final Confrontation and True Closure. 1 month after exposing Ethan's secret trip, I attended our neighborhood's annual summer block party, a community event we'd attended together every year for 6 years. In past years, we'd arrived hand in hand, smiling for photos, playing the perfect happy couple for the entire neighborhood to admire. This year, I arrived alone. I walked through the crowded street, greeted by warm smiles and supportive hugs from neighbors who'd all learned the truth of Ethan's betrayal. Everyone knew what had happened. Everyone knew I was the wronged party, the loyal spouse who'd been cheated on and lied to for years. Everyone admired my strength, my grace, my refusal to stay in a broken marriage. I wore a simple white sundress, my hair loose and bright, my posture confident and relaxed. For the first time in years, I wasn't hiding behind a perfect marriage or a perfect husband. I was just me, Poppy, independent, thriving, free. I laughed and chatted with neighbors, enjoyed the food and music, and soaked in the peaceful summer evening, completely at peace with my new life. Then I saw him. Ethan stood at the far end of the block, hovering awkwardly by the sidewalk, watching me. He looked gaunt and exhausted, his face thinner, his eyes dull and defeated. He was wearing old, wrinkled clothes, a far cry from his polished designer wardrobe from months prior. He looked broken, worn down by the consequences of his own choices. Our neighbors avoided him entirely, turning away when he tried to make eye contact, refusing to speak to him. He was a ghost in the neighborhood he'd once ruled as the perfect successful husband. For a long moment, we stared at each other across the crowded street. I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no longing, no regret. Just pure, unfiltered indifference. He was a stranger to me now. A man I'd once loved deeply, but who no longer held any space in my heart or my life. After a minute of watching me laugh and socialize happily without him, Ethan walked slowly across the street toward me. He hesitated a few feet away, clearly nervous to approach me in public, but determined to speak one last time. My friends tensed beside me, ready to defend me if he tried to harass me, but I waved them off calmly. I was not afraid of him. I was stronger than him now. "Poppy," he said softly, his voice quiet and defeated, no anger, no desperation, just pure exhaustion. "You look happy." "I am happy," I replied honestly, meeting his eyes steadily. "Happier than I've been in years." He nodded slowly, his eyes glistening with tears. "I see that. You're thriving without me. And I'm nothing without you." I didn't soften at his words. I didn't feel pity. "You're nothing without your lies, Ethan. You're nothing without the life you built on my sacrifice and your deception. I'm thriving because I finally got to be myself, free from your secrets and your betrayal." He stared at his feet for a long moment, then looked back up at me, his expression full of genuine, broken regret, the first real remorse I'd ever seen from him. "I ruined everything," he whispered. "I had the perfect wife, the perfect home, the perfect life. I had everything a man could ever want, and I threw it all away for a meaningless affair, a stupid secret trip, a lie that cost me every single thing." "You did," I agreed calmly. "You made every choice that led you here. No one forced you to lie. No one forced you to cheat. No one forced you to waste our life savings on another woman. This is all you're doing." "I know," he breathed out shakily. "I lie awake every night regretting it. I hate myself for what I did to you. I destroyed the only good thing I ever had." I tilted my head slightly, speaking the final truth that would close this chapter forever. "The worst part isn't that you cheated on me. The worst part is that you spent 2 years lying to me, making me question my own worth, making